One day, in a green and dense forest, the sound of running footsteps was heard. Yes, they were the footsteps of a small fox named Nick, who was playing hide and seek with his friends. Carefully, he hid behind a cave that served as his home.
If I hide here, I won't be found.
Not long after that, one of the animals, a red-eyed rabbit named Judy, noticed a bright orange tail hiding behind the cave.
So you're hiding there, Nick?
Suddenly, Judy startled Nick, who was hiding in the cave.
Ow, why do I always get caught?
Soon after, his other friends arrived. Riri the deer and Novi the pigeon.
Yeah, I don't know why I always lose at hide and seek. But even so, I am still the fastest animal in this forest.
Yeah, we know.
That was Nick's colorful daily life with his friends. The forest was called Elderwood. Elderwood was an ancient forest. It was the place where Nick and his friends lived and shared their lives together. Even though Nick had no family, the forest and his friends were like a family to him. Every day was filled with laughter. Playing hide and seek and searching for food together were the two things they loved the most. The rows of trees, the sound of water dripping from leaves, and the gentle wind felt familiar to them. One day, Nick and his friends went into the forest to look for fruit. They agreed to split up in different directions so they could find fruit more easily. It didn't take long for Nick to collect fruit. With his speed and sharp sense of smell, he gathered fruit quickly. However, while he was busy collecting fruit, he suddenly heard a crying sound behind a tree. Carefully, Nick peeked to see who was there. It turned out to be a small boy crying.
Hi, my name is Nick.
Hi. My name is Beben.
You don't need to be afraid. I have some fruit. Eat it, you look hungry. Are you lost?
Yes.
Don't worry, I will take you home.
Gently, Nick brushed his tail against the boy to calm him down. After the boy felt calmer, they started walking. They followed the river, and not long after, they heard the sound of car and motorcycle horns. They had arrived in the city. Ben smiled in relief. He slowly lowered his head and patted Nick's head while saying,
Thank you. I will never forget you.
Years passed. Elderwood Forest still stood, but the human world changed rapidly. Technology took over the world, and many lands were taken for industrial purposes. On the other side, a man was seen preparing blueprints for a forest exploitation project. Unexpectedly, he was Ben, and the forest to be exploited was Elderwood Forest. While finishing his final blueprint, Ben realized that he had been on the wrong path all this time. He suddenly remembered the small fox who once helped him when he was lost in Elderwood. With firm determination, he threw away all the blueprints and submitted his resignation from the project. However, Ben was one of the project leader's favorite workers because he was hardworking and intelligent. Therefore, the leader did not let him leave easily.
I'm sorry, I want to leave this project. You can't leave this place.
And no, I truly love Elderwood Forest and everything inside it. I just realized that I have been blinded by my own greed. I'm leaving this project no matter what.
One day in the forest, Nick heard a sound different from before. It was not the sound of dripping water or blowing wind, but the sound of machines.
Start now! Prepare more machines! Because my wallet says this will be very profitable!
With great greed, he cut down the trees one by one. Soon the forest began to fall, the air became polluted, and many animals fled. However, the leader did not care and continued shouting,
This is all because of you, Ben! Hunt!
Hearing the name Ben, Nick thought that the child he once helped was the reason behind this disaster. Feeling disappointed, he ran to find his friends to escape. He ran as fast as he could until he reached the cave where they used to live and play. But instead of his friends, he saw fallen trees and a destroyed cave. Nick could not believe what he saw. He was devastated because he lost his family, friends, and home. However, he had to survive, or he would share the same fate. Finally, Nick found temporary shelter on the branch of a fallen tree. With a helpless and sorrowful gaze, he watched his entire world being taken away by humans. For a moment, hatred toward humans appeared, but he suddenly remembered the smile of the little boy he once helped. He rejected that hatred completely. In the middle of his despair, he heard a familiar voice.
Hi, Nick.
Nick turned around and recognized the face. It was Ben, the boy he had once helped. Ben slowly crouched down to Nick's level. Suddenly, Nick jumped back, showing anger and distrust toward Ben. Ben understood why Nick hated him, so he slowly explained everything, from being part of the project to his resignation, so there would be no misunderstanding between them. After hearing the story, Nick felt relieved. The human he once helped was not involved in the destruction. Ben then continued.
I'm sorry, Nick. As redemption, please let me take you to a safe place.
Gently, Ben carried Nick and took him somewhere. Soon they arrived at a grand gate with the words, "The Paradise."
Welcome to the paradise, Nick.
What place is this?
Don't worry. This is a place where humans, animals, and nature protect each other instead of destroying one another. Oh, and one more thing. Someone inside is waiting for you.
Curious, Nick walked inside.
Hi, Nick.
Tears fell from Nick's eyes. He couldn't believe his friends were still alive. He looked back at Ben with a grateful expression, as if saying, "Thank you." Ben nodded, understanding. Happily, Nick ran toward his friends. In the end, Nick became part of the paradise, a place where humans, animals, and nature lived side by side and learned from each other. Although he could not forget his old home, he now had new friends and a new joyful life in the paradise. The moral value of this story is humans, animals, and nature should live side by side, not destroy one another. Humans may be perfect beings, but that perfection should not be used to harm other creatures. Always remember that greed and excessive desire only lead you to the wrong path. And when we do something wrong, we must be ready to face the consequences of our actions.